This is Inspirational Women, a weekly series shining the spotlight on female trailblazers making a true difference in our community. Once again, here is Kate Daniels.
Dr. Eileen Kennedy-Moore is a clinical psychologist, creator of the Kids Ask Dr. Friendtastic podcast, and the author of 9 important books for kids and their parents. Dr. Eileen Kennedy-Moore, good morning. Thank you so greatly for joining us today.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
And I am so grateful that you have joined us this morning, Dr. Eileen, who also we are going to refer to as Dr. Friendtastic. And if that isn't just a gem of a name and something so special, I don't know what would be. But we're going to learn more about you and about what this means and about your work in particular with children, really from... what would you say, from elementary school into junior high, maybe high school too?
Yeah. So kindergarten through 8th grade is probably the sweet spot. I have a weekly podcast, which is the joy of my work life. So I also have a clinical practice in Princeton, New Jersey. But outside of that, I do a podcast called Kids Ask Dr. Friendtastic. And it comes out every week. It's about 5 minutes long, although sometimes I cheat and it's 7 minutes, but who's going to stop me?
Right.
But every episode features an audio recording of a question from a kid about friendship. And then I try to say something practical, thought-provoking, and hopefully research-based.
So in terms of these questions, these are actual questions children send to you, not anything that you make up. These are real-life situations.
Absolutely. So some people have said to me, oh, Eileen, you should use AI. And I'm like, oh, never, because the whole point of it is the children's voices. And if you listen to them, oh my gosh, they are just so sweet and so honest. And the podcast is really about addressing children's genuine concerns and hearing their authentic voices. So it is just a delight. And let me tell you, their questions are deep. So I had this one little girl named Vera, and she's 8 years old. And she sent in a question that said, do we have to change ourselves to make friends? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to answer that question. So my answer was that my favorite questions in life, not just on the podcast, are ones that seem simple on the surface. But the more we think about them, the more questions they raise. Because what do you mean by change? What do you mean by self? What do you mean by make friends? So I talked about how we are all different in different situations and different relationships, and we change over time. But we also have a felt sense of authenticity, those moments where we think this is who I am or want to be. But sometimes we'll do something that's not exactly what we want because it's what a friend wants. But that can be very authentic because it taps into our deepest values of caring for the friend. So the answer, and that's the foundation of every friendship. So the answer to the question, do we have to change ourselves to make friends, is no. We have to show up as our most authentic, caring selves. Mic drop. There it is.
Yes. And can we put this on repeat? And can we put this to be displayed, as some sort of, how they have those big signs that are videos, with audio to it? Because that is probably really like a fundamental question for so many people that as adults, they still struggle with it, right?
Right. So I had another question from a little, I think she was 13 or 14, a girl. She sent in the question asking, how do I not feel guilty about saying no? Like, how many adults do you know who struggle with that, right?
Yes.
So my answer to her was that a resentful yes is kind of like saying to the friend, okay, I'm going to do exactly what you want, but then I'm going to hold it against you forever. And that's a bad bargain for both you and the friend. And resentment is poison in any relationship. So a thoughtful no can actually save your friendship.
Again, yes. How many adults do struggle with that and then carry that resentment, for decades even?
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So we have to think carefully, what can we give with an open heart? Give that. And a thoughtful no, or I can't do that, but I can do this is a better message.
That is so amazing for children to be this open. And I think that's it. We need to honor that children really do have these deep thoughts. And, there was an era when we told children, no, you're to be seen and not heard. And right. Whereas
Yeah.
now to give them this opportunity to ask questions we see how deep it is.
Yes, it is. I had another little guy, a 6-year-old named Zen, and he sent in a question saying, "How do I never have conflict with my friend?" Like, wouldn't we all wish that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And my answer to him is that there's only one way to never have conflict with your friend, and that is you and your friend have to think and feel exactly the same at every single second. But wait, then you couldn't be friends because you'd be the same person. So in every friendship, there's going to be conflict. Most of us wander through life thinking, well, pretty much everybody thinks and feels the same way I do. And it's through conflict that we learn, oh, they see things very differently. And that is our opportunity to learn more about the friend, to learn more about ourselves. And this is a beautiful thing. The trick is to make sure the conflict isn't too painful.
Indeed. Yes, because sometimes it will mean that maybe we're so different, I'm guessing, right? That we're not
Yes,
going to be
yes.
friends. We can be friendly, but it's
Right.
not like we'll have a deeper connection because you don't have that with every single person.
That's right. That's right. But we can be kind to everyone. And I
Oh,
remember I raised 4 kids. My husband and I raised 4 kids. And I remember telling my own children, you don't have to like that kid, but I expect you to be kind to them.
oh,
And
yes.
that's the standard. That's the
Mm,
standard.
it is. That that word, that sense of being, of kindness is, if only we could really integrate that into our hearts, our beingness, wouldn't this world be a different place?
Right. And I was mentioning to you earlier that this work with the Kids Ask Dr. Friendtastic podcast and all the other things I do for parents and kids about teaching about friendship, it really is mission driven. Because if you think about the epidemic of loneliness among adults, the mental health crisis among teens, and the painful divisiveness in our country and our world, it's never been more urgent to teach kids to build strong and caring relationships. This is really needed. And it's needed not only for the world, but also for kids, because what research tells us is that friendship is kind of the answer to everything. So if you want your kid to feel happier, help them make friends. If you want them to cope better with stress, friends. If you want them to feel more engaged with school, stress, more confident, sorry, I said that wrong. If you want them to feel more engaged with school, that's help them make friends. If you want them to cope better with stress, help them make friends. If you want them to be less likely to be bullied, friends again. So it really is kind of the answer to everything. And a lot of times parents feel very helpless when their kid comes home and says, nobody likes me, or they were mean to me, or everybody has a best friend except I do. And there's actually a lot that we as parents can do to help our children learn these important friendship skills.
And the fact may be that some parents feel like, I don't even know the answer to give you. And that's where I feel that you provide this incredible service, education, connection, and a way that parents can feel that much more confident about sharing this with their kids. And even having, of course, that's what you're doing, is having kids then contact you with questions.
Yes. So if you have a child in grades K through 8 who has a question about friendship that they'd like me to answer, you can go to drfriendtastic.com/submit. That's drfriendtastic.com/submit. And if I also have a gift for your listeners, which is if they go to drfriendtastic.com/free, they'll get 3 free ebooks, little mini guides about what to do when your child says, nobody likes me, when your child cries easily, and when your child gets bullied.
Mm. Oh, very significant areas. And, this, of course, applies to any time of the year. But here, as we're looking at a new school year starting and wanting to kind of build that good foundation, this is just really ideal timing.
Exactly, exactly. And it is, when the kids are thinking about back to school, they're not thinking about the exciting curriculum. I'm sorry to the teachers, but they're not. What they're thinking about is who's going to be in my classroom? Who can I make friends with? Are all my friends going to be in the other classroom? That's what's preoccupying them right now.
Yes. And so for parents who understandably can be feeling pressured from so many things going on in life, to have this opportunity to have some guidance, some input where they can, I would, if I were a parent of a young child, I would feel such confidence of thinking, oh, here's what I'm tapping into, and I will share this with my child. I'm going to build up my own bank of knowledge and really appear like this wise mother and wise woman.
Well, you can also go on the drfriendtastic.com website on the podcast page and search. So if you know your child is having difficulty in a certain area, you can look for episodes. There are over 150 of them. So chances are we may have discussed something that's relevant for your child. And I also have a whole bunch of books that I've written. I've written 9 traditionally published books for either parents or kids. And there's a pair of books for school-age children. One is called Growing Friendships, A Kid's Guide to Making and Keeping Friends. And another is called Growing Feelings, A Kid's Guide to Dealing with Emotions about friends and other kids. And both of those books have little cartoon vignettes about common friendship problems. Then the narrator comes in and gives some research-based tips. And then wandering through the text are this cat and dog character that make goofy suggestions like, he should sniff their butts. No, he shouldn't. But kids like feeling smart, and the little bit of humor keeps them engaged.
Oh, of course. Oh, and that's perfect humor for them too, right?
Exactly.
Oh, and you also do have a book for parents.
That's right. Well, I have several, but the most recent one is called Kid Confidence: Help Your Child Make Friends, Build Resilience, and Develop Real Self-Esteem. So the idea behind this book is I wrote it because I just saw so much online that was just nonsense. Stuff about, well, you have to believe in yourself in order to succeed, and you can't love anyone else unless you love yourself. That is not supported by research whatsoever. And in fact, bullies have high self-esteem. And, that's not what we're aiming for, right?
Right.
So, and if you think about it, who stands in front of a mirror and says, gosh, I love myself? And would you want to be friends with them if they did, right? That is not what we're aiming for. So what we're aiming for is more like the way we are with a close friend. So you're not sitting there thinking, does she like me? Or is he impressed by me? You're just immersed in the conversation or the activity. And there's this beautiful forgetting of the self that's called a quiet ego. And that's what we want to help our kids to develop. So instead of trying to boost their self-esteem, we want to help them turn down the volume of self-focus and self-judgment and have this generous outward focus. And I'm a clinician, so I'm always roll up your sleeves. What are we going to do? And so it's full of very, very practical ideas for what to do when your kid says, nobody likes me, or I give up, this is too hard, or all the things that self-doubting children tend to say.
Just amazing. Because there's such a need, as you were saying, Dr. Eileen, how there's just so much struggle at all ages because of all the stress, all the uncertainty that exists in the world. We have to be really thoughtful to not have it impinge on us, and how it's really difficult to be that 100% of the time. So
nobody is,
and right. And if you're not really conscious of that happening, it's why we have the depression, why we have such a high suicide rate with teenagers, which is just heartbreaking.
It really is. And I mean, I can't draw from research a direct causal line, but as a clinician, I think it is really, really useful to try to cultivate this quiet ego, turn down the volume on self-focus and self-judgment, cultivate that generous outward focus. And you're absolutely right. Nobody can stay in a quiet ego all the time. Like, things happen and we get very easily pulled into judging ourselves. But we've all had moments of a quiet ego. So when you've been absorbed in a creative task and you in that flow state and you completely lose track of time and you're not thinking, do I look good now? You're just immersed in that. That's a quiet ego. Or when you're standing out in the wilderness under the night sky and the sky is crowded with stars again, you're not thinking, do I look good here? It's just this beautiful kind of forgetting of the self. And that's what we're aiming for. And it's also with children, really the thing that starts to pull them out of themselves is their friendship relationships. What fuels the development of children's friendships, from those love the one you're with friendships of the toddler years to the more intimate and lasting friendships of the teen years, is an increasing ability to understand someone else's perspective. That's something that parents can really help with.
Yes, indeed. And some parents, though, I'm thinking of how might feel like, oh my gosh, so overwhelmed, in part with what's going on in their life, and they want to help their child. They may not necessarily know where to turn. And that's where I feel, with all the books you've written and with these podcasts and with the children's questions, Ask Dr. Friendtastic, there's such a simple, direct way to get that instant information that you need.
So I'll tell you a really good exercise that's super simple. You can do it driving to school or driving to soccer practice or whatever with your kid. Play a podcast episode up to the end of the kid question. Then stop it and ask your child, what advice would you give this kid? Because that engages their thinking and imagining and empathizing. And then you can play my answer of the Kids Ask Dr. Friendtastic podcast. And then you can, if you go to the show notes, or if you get my newsletter where it'll be sent to you every week, you can use the discussion questions to deepen your child's understanding of whatever the issue is, or wing it, just chat while you're in the car about, what did you think about that? Or how would you have handled that? Or what do you think is likely to happen if he does that? Or why do you think he was struggling so much with that? There are a million questions that you can do. And it's less fraught because we're talking about somebody else, not them. So it's not going to turn into a sermon. It's about them.
And what is beautiful there, too, is that the question and answer there is causing thought, is causing them to consider different ways, potentially. Or, there's I feel it's this. I think it's just such a great growth for a child and for the parent, too, to engage in this. And what a bond it's creating between them,
right.
too.
And it's strengthening the parent-child relationship, which I'm always about. Even in my practice, the parents knew the kids long before I was involved, and they're going to be with the kid long after I'm gone. So that parent-child connection, we want to do everything we can to protect and strengthen that.
Oh, yes. Gosh, this is so amazing. I can't believe that I was so lucky to come across finding you and this work that you're doing, because it's about the children, which obviously is so, so critical because, well, they are the future. And in this way, we're nurturing how to really build this future generation of kind, considerate thinking, and self-assured, that having that quiet ego, having that kind of self-esteem that they have. It starts with the young ones.
It does. And I think that there's been a lot of not so helpful advice in what's been called the gentle parenting movement. And obviously, I'm very much in favor of children being treated with gentleness. But I think at the extreme ends of that, we're putting children's feelings above everything else. Children's feelings matter. And if they are able to articulate them, to wrap them up in words, that's fantastic, because then they can understand with them and cope with them better. But I think the piece that's been missing is the relationship piece. So children's feelings matter, but so do everybody else's. I had a client once, a little girl who, she was upper elementary age, and she hated having her picture taken. And there was going to be a big gathering for Grandma's birthday. So people were coming from all corners to celebrate Grandma's birthday. And this girl knew there were going to be pictures involved. So I empathized with her. I said, you really hate picture taking. She goes, yes. And it always takes super long. Yes. And it makes you feel self-conscious to have the camera pointed at you. And she goes, yes. And I said, that makes sense. And then I said, and whose feelings are most important at Grandma's birthday? She goes, oh, I go, exactly.
Oh, But she already was so aware to realize, no, it wasn't about what she wanted then. She realized, right? That,
Right. Her feelings matter,
yeah,
but so do other people's. And
yes,
sometimes other people's feelings come first, and that's okay. That's okay.
yes.
But if I had just gone in with that, well, you have to because it's grandma's birthday, that wouldn't have worked.
No.
So we have to let the child feel heard, validate, wrap their feelings up in words, and then you'll see the softening. And then they're ready to think about the bigger picture.
Because they're growing in understanding. If we dictate, oh, you must do this, there's no thinking. They're just reacting, and there's no like a buy-in. There's no real grasping of what's important here. But with the way that you described this, Dr. Eileen, she understood, and that's going to impact going forward how she thinks about other people, other situations.
Yeah, and it was like it made sense to her, and it has to be kind of in that sequence. So this is not related to friendship, but I had a client, a mom, who told me, I call that echoing the kids' feelings reflection. And she told me, so for once, I remember that reflection thing. And I go, oh, what happened? And she said her high school daughter came home spitting nails because she was furious about something that the teacher did. And I don't remember what the teacher did. But she goes, but I remember that reflection thing. And I said, the basic formula is you're feeling blank because blank. So she said, you're feeling frustrated because the teacher did that thing. And the girl goes, yeah, and it's not fair because the other class, they never have to do whatever it is. And the mom said, it bothers you that they don't have to do it and you guys do, and the teacher keeps doing that. And she goes, yeah, and like she always does this. And the mom said, it's hard for you that she keeps doing this terrible thing, whatever it was. And the girl says, yeah. And then the mom said, you wish she would hear you and not do whatever it is. And the girl goes, yeah. You hear the softening? Mm-hmm. So we have to keep reflecting until we get the softening in the kid's face and body. And then, and only then, can we move to problem solving. So the mom saw the softening, and then she said, so what do you think you might do? And the girl says, I guess I'll go talk to the teacher. And she storms out. And the mom was like, that worked. Because her instinct would be to say, well, you should talk to the teacher. Yeah. But that would have gotten all the pushback. Yeah. But once we reflect first and then ask the question, then the kid was able to wind their way towards what is a good way of responding. And it came out of the kid's lips, which is more powerful than us telling them what to do.
Yes, it's all about that kind of empowerment. But if we dictate, like, go do it, they've learned nothing. Eventually, maybe they'll think about that. But no, this way is really the teaching way, the learning way.
It is. And, sometimes we don't have time to do that. Like, get in the car, we have to leave. Okay. Like, we don't have to go, well, how do you feel about that? Like, no. Just get in the car. But when we can almost see their little brains growing in front of our eyes and expanding their awareness from the blinders on, this is what I want, to, okay, bigger context. What are my options? How could I deal with it? How are they likely to respond if I do that? Let me think it through. Yes. Another thing that I often get in the podcast is a question about, I want to confront my friend. Mm-hmm. And isn't this something that we adults know well? Like we want to take them down and tell them how wrong they are. So with this one, I like to slow it down. And the first question we want to ask ourselves is, what is the response that you're hoping for from the other person? And the second question is, what kind of communication is most likely to get that response? If you don't know the answer to those two questions, you are not ready to confront the other person. Mm-hmm. So keep thinking a little longer.
Such a wealth of information that really I can see a parent feeling, me, not a parent, really at a grandparent stage, really learning something. Because these are just really basic, fundamental ways of growing, learning, interacting with people. I mean, this is really friendship, life, growing.
It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that one of our most important jobs as parents is to help kids learn how to be in relationships. Mm-hmm. So they learn that from how we treat them, from how we treat other people. They are watching, and they learn more from what they see than from what we tell them. And also by asking these questions, empathizing with their feelings and asking questions to expand their awareness and think through options. This is just a beautiful thing.
It's all about being kind.
Basically.
When it comes down to it.
Now, there are a variety of challenges, though. So kids can get stuck in different ways. In my book, Growing Friendships, I talk about 5 essential friendship skills. So those are reaching out to make friends, stepping back to keep friends, blending in to join friends, speaking up to share with friends, and letting go to accept friends. Now, notice that a bunch of those are opposites. That's because friendship skills are never about just do one thing. It's about being able to flexibly adjust our behavior to fit the situation. So reaching out is important, but so is being able to step back. And in my practice, I often see kids who annoy other kids. And with those, one strategy is to talk to them about stop signals. So ask your child, what are some ways that you might be able to tell someone wants you to stop doing whatever you're doing? And so we'll make a list. Things like, stop it, cut it out. You're being annoying. Like kids can be very blunt, right? Or sometimes it's a nonverbal one. Like they might go, or walk away. And what I tell kids is when you see or hear one of those stop signals, you need to stop. Because otherwise you're telling that person, I don't care what you think or feel or want. I'm just doing this anyway. And of course they're going to get mad about that. We all make social mistakes. We stumble on our words, we tell a joke and it's not funny, we ask a question and nobody's that interested. That's fine. The problem is if we persist. So if we hear the stop signal and we stop, we're okay. Now, some kids have a hard time stopping, so we have to give them some strategies. This might be sitting on their hands for the little ones. Or I had a little guy that I recommended putting his hands in his pockets when he was walking in a line, because otherwise he was poking somebody. Or we might teach a kid to say the phrase, I'm going to stop now. That's a little bit awkward, but it signals to the other person, I hear you, I'm working on it. And it gives the kid that extra little breaking room that some children need. So that's a very important one. Another one, I have a list of forgiveness guidelines that I talk over with kids sometimes. And they are things like, it only happened once and it's never likely to happen again. Let it go. If it was an accident or a misunderstanding, or the person is sincerely sorry for whatever happened, let it go. If it happened more than a month ago, definitely let it go.
Again, such a wealth of important information for personal growth, for our own selves, but really for our children to nurture them at this young age. Dr. Eileen, you are just amazing. Bottom line, amazing. And it's so great that you are doing this work and that in this age, we're able to access it. You're on the East Coast, we're here on the West, but we can still connect with your podcasts and learn and share this information and help our kids to grow.
Yes. Well, parents do often feel helpless, but the message that I want to share is that there is a lot that you can do to help your child make friends, keep friends, and most importantly, be a good friend. And Kids Ask Dr. Friendtastic podcast is free. So check it out and go to drfriendtastic.com/free to get those mini guides. And that will also sign you up for my newsletter. So you'll get new podcast episodes sent right to your email. So you can check them out.
Such a gift. That is so amazing. Well, Dr. Eileen, thank you so greatly for taking this time with us this morning, for all this incredible information about being a friend, about how to have friendship exist in our lives. So many, many thanks for your great work and your time today.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for being here this morning to meet these special guests who are living their life's purpose and providing us with the guidance to do likewise. Please check this station's website for the podcasts for more information about these guests, and please share the stories with your family and friends. I'm Kate Daniels. If you'd like to connect with me, simply send me an email, katedaniels@hubbardradio.com. I leave you with this thought. Life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you.
Thank you for listening to Inspirational Women. Tune in every Sunday morning at this time to hear about those truly empowering the Northwest community, all for the greater good. Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women are a public service of Hubbard Radio Seattle.